Welcome to this special edition of Counting the Cost, where we're looking at what lies ahead for the global economy in 2023. One word that has caught everyone's attention this year is inflation. Inflation.
Hunting for bargains, shoppers in Argentina carefully compare prices as the cost of living almost doubled last year. Over the past year, a liter of milk rose 320%, while cooking oil shot up to 456%, and a kilo of sugar soared 490%.
Where inflation is higher than almost anywhere else in the world. Simply having a job isn't enough anymore for many Argentinians struggling to make it to the end of the month. In 2001, Argentina's government defaulted on nearly $100 billion of foreign debt. Local banks froze the savings accounts of hundreds of thousands of people, depriving them of rainy day fund.
In Argentina, we don't really trust banks. They've already confiscated our savings multiple times.
Wells Fargo & Co. on Friday reported a 50% decline in profit for the fourth quarter. Big banks, including JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and Bank of America, all reported quarterly results on Friday. These firms collectively sent a clear message to investors: we are preparing for a downturn.
They were hot, many of them turning to social media to vent their frustrations. Imagine waking up to find money missing from your Bank of America account. You'd be enraged, and rightfully so. Well, that's exactly what happened to Bank of America customers. They began reporting issues with payments processed through the money transfer service Zelle yesterday morning after noticing large amounts of money disappearing from their accounts. And get this, at no fault of their own.
This is serious. I'm your host, Steve Van Meter, and thanks for joining me today. And our lead story today, it is now confirmed that the dollar's pegged to crude oil and its status as a global reserve currency may be coming to an end.
We have seen many countries like China and Russia decrease their exposure to the dollar in recent times. Also, central banks worldwide are doubting their trust in the dollar. Could this really mean the end of the petrodollar?
Most of the global trade is done in one currency, the US dollar. But Russia and China are looking to break the dollar's dominance.
And this is a major concern because it is largely believed by many experts that if the petrodollar begins to be traded in other currencies, that it will begin a slippery slope of the dollar losing its dominance as a global reserve currency. To tackle inflation, the Biden administration drained the strategic petroleum reserve down to extremely low levels, putting the U.S. in a position that we may be forced to pay any price for crude oil or pay in some other form of currency, which could be a major problem as we look to secure our strategic energy reserves back to a level that we need it to be at. Russia won't produce more oil, Zoltan says, but would ensure that there's enough demand that if production doesn't get shut, and it would also ensure that more oil goes to Europe than the U.S. through India, and more important, gold going from 1,800 to close to 3,600 would increase the value of Russia's gold reserves and its gold output at home, and the gold become the dominant trade for crude oil, which it has a ton of.
We have more dollars outside of America. So when they start coming home because they're not needed for petro contracts or anything pretty much, and various countries are starting to see less and less value in the dollar, you're going to see that inflation come home here.
Forbes media chairman Steve, great to see you. Thank you very much.
Good to be with you.
Thank you. It does seem, I mean, this is just one example of several that we have seen, particularly in the high-tech area, but it does seem we are kind of slipping into a recession, doesn't it?
Certainly a real slowdown. I don't know what the economic theologians are going to call it, but people are going to feel a lot of pain. But look at California. One point, they had $100 billion to play with. Now they're facing a $25 billion deficit. Geniuses out there, I know, but other states, to a lesser extent, are facing the same kind of pressures.
Hello and welcome to Ways to Change the World. I'm Krishnan Gurumurthy. My guest this week is a world-famous economist. Nouriel Roubini is a professor in New York, a global economic consultant, and an author who, amongst many distinguishing things, was one of those who foresaw the 2008 credit crunch and financial crisis. His latest work is called Megathreats, and it details 10 trends that make it more likely than not that we are heading for a global economic crash of stagnant growth, debt crises, and high inflation that will cause decades of dystopian suffering and injustice. No wonder they call him Dr. Doom.
Is the dollar doomed?
Sadly, recent developments show that the dollar might be dethroned soon.
July of 2021, right when this video came out, with Klaus Schwab talking about the cyber pandemic, saying that this is going to be far worse than anything we've experienced over the last few years. And then what we look at right now with what's happened over the last couple weeks, it to me signals that we're stepping into exactly what they were discussing. The title of this news week, it's a cyber pandemic. This just came out yesterday. How attackers outwit all efforts to stop them. It's a cyber pandemic. Talking about last week, if you don't remember, the FAA grounded all planes. All planes. This is the first time it's happened in 20 years, over 20 years. What? Take a look at this video and look at the date here, July 5th, 2021. Well, here's the video.
Attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.
We've got another issue quietly brewing behind the scenes, and that's the fact that the United States is quickly running out of money, with the national debt now exceeding more than $31 trillion.
If you're going to have a party, you have to pay the band. If you're going to borrow money, you have to pay it back. That's true as a moral principle and a principle of practicality.
If you look at what Cathie Wood's saying, so what she's saying is that the Fed keeps going the way they are, the setup will be more like 1929. Cathie Wood has warned of another Great Depression. If they don't pivot, we're going to see a Great Depression. That's the new definition of the word recession, by the way. The word recession means Great Depression. So
the good news is, he says we can avoid it if we come to our senses, if we come to our senses, if we come to our senses.